All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. I call this meeting of the Winthrop School Board to order. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll start with our roll call. We have absences today. Gianni is at a soccer game, and we have a board member, Ivy, absent as well. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
Yes, there are two. I want to move 6.6, the discussion possible action regarding Principal Smell's contract, to 9, so that this can be in executive session. And then also I'd like to put under new business 6.1 to do a hiring of the interventionist at the Winthrop Middle School.
Okay. This number 9 wasn't previously on the agenda, right? That's something new completely.
Yes, that we're
Perfect.
moving what's under 6 to 9.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the Winthrop School Board meeting of October 1st, 2025 as written, unless anyone has corrections.
Seconded.
Any discussion at all? All those in favor? Thank you for your vote. Okay, we have our first public comment section. If anyone would like to speak, we ask that you step up to the podium. For the folks who are in the yep, can indicate by your raised hand. Ivy needs to. Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public comment section and enter into our reports, starting with item 4.1, our superintendent report.
All right, good evening. I just wanted to report that we're almost fully staffed, with the exception of still needing one special ed tech at the grade school. Megan and I will be attending the fall conference next week on October 23rd and 24th, and we'll bring any new learning back to the board to share with you. Believe it or not, it is already time to start thinking about the budget. So we will begin working on next year's budget at the A-team meeting next Tuesday. And it's just really hard to believe that it's already that time again. Today was Apple Crunch Day throughout the state. And the students and I took a bite out of an apple at noon today. Miss Violet was there with me, who also enjoyed a really nice crunchy apple. And as we know, there are many apple growers in Maine, and apples also have a lot of nutritious value. And so this day was celebrated across the state, and it was fun seeing all of the students choose from a variety of apples that we had for them at the school. Alicia and I attended the Charter Commission last night to review the portion that pertains to the school board under the town charter. We were there to answer questions and to suggest updates where needed, which included when we do our organizational meeting, because it's been, I think, several years, over 10 since they reviewed the charter. The stipend was listed for board members at $325, so they'll be making that change to update that. There was also some interest in us maybe returning to just really talk about the process that we use in our budget development. So more to come on that. I have a lot of wonderful sports updates. Field hockey is currently sitting in 4th place with one regular season game remaining. And the team has secured home field advantage for the opening round of the playoffs. Boys soccer is currently in 5th place and will also host a playoff game. Girls soccer is holding on to 8th spot in possibly will, and Abby may talk more about that, move on to the preliminary round of playoffs. And cross country is doing really well. The boys cross country has had an impressive season and well positioned to make a serious run at the championship this Saturday. Girls cross country has been competitive in every meet too, and so that's great. In golf, the Winthrop team earned runner-up honors at the state championship last Saturday, which was congratulations to the golf team. Drew Mertzel, a freshman, captured the individual state title for boys, and Kay Allery finished as the state runner-up on the girls' side. Football remains undefeated, and so we've just got a lot to celebrate with the upcoming playoffs, which is what I asked Joel to do a write-up for me about, was like who's going to be in the playoffs. And that concludes my report for the evening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Foley. Does the board have any questions or comments? Okay, perfect. We'll go ahead and move into the school board chair report. Like Dr. Foley said, I also attended the Charter Commission last night. I won't bore you with those details. I do have the delegate assembly, the Maine School Board Association delegate assembly coming up this Saturday. That's via Zoom. And really, it's been a pretty quiet week aside from those two things. At this time, I'll turn the time over to Abigail with the student representative report.
The fall sport season's coming to an end. Yesterday, field hockey defeated Oak Hill 2-1 in overtime, bringing their record to a 9-5-0. Well, the girls soccer team battled in a 0-0 overtime tie with Spruce Mountain. At Lisbon Greyhound Invitational Cross Country Meet, the boys team took first place, led by Alfie, who finished first overall and earned a blue ribbon. The girls team placed third overall with 5 PRs. The Rambler Nation Golf Tournament recently raised over $30,000 to support athletes. And the next booster club meeting will be held tomorrow at 6 p.m. at Tavern on the Hill. For academics, we just had a successful NWIA testing week, and next Wednesday on the 22nd, the NHS induction ceremony is at 8:30 in the PAC.
Thank you very, very much, Abby. Does the board have any questions or comments? Okay. Moving into our committee reports, starting with finance.
Yes, so we met and we did payroll 7 and 8, and we did warrants 26B, 5A, 5B, 6B, 7A, and 7B. Also in discussion, we discussed taking the insurance off the electric buses. It'll save us about $8,000 a year, just a way to move forward of recouping and moving on from the electric buses.
Thank you, Tim. Any questions from the board at all? Okay. Policy?
I think we're meeting in about a week.
Okay. And negotiations, the two from last year.
Yes, and we will be starting negotiations soon with the administrator contract. So I'll be reaching out to those board members, which is Alicia and Erica, to start that up, and Colleen will be scheduling some meetings. So I expect that to begin in November.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, moving right along into the administrator reports. Those are attached in your packets. Did we have anyone to feature? Okay.
Yes, I'm going to have Principal Dufour come up and expand a little bit about the things that have changed in CATSI, where students can get credit.
Evening. So I wanted to take some time to talk about some of the items that I'm in my report regarding LD 436 and the work that the 8 sending schools did last year in accordance with Capital Area Technical Center, or CATSI, of which Winthrop is one of the sending schools. So LD 436 is a law that went into place a few years ago that requires students in a vocational program to earn high school credit, and sort of left it up to the vocational schools in the state and the high school sending schools to be able to figure out the best way to do that. So I, early on, all the principals met with Mr. Gannon, who's the director of CATSI, early last year, so that we could start that process. I very thankful that we have Megan around, and I quickly sort of tagged her into that work because, you know, her mathematical and curriculum brain really sort of helped me wrap my brain around standards and how we could sort of map things out. And to be quite honest, you know, Megan really helped all the 8 sending schools get the ball rolling. We hosted a meeting at Winthrop High School, and that's really where we, with Megan's help, kicked off all the work for the 8 sending schools with CATSI. We're given a couple of templates from other vocational schools that have done this work, some very differently than the way that we approached it. And in the end, we had monthly meetings with each program at CATSI or virtually, where they talked to us about the work that they do and the standards that they cover. And then the principals worked with Megan and some of our other curriculum folks within our buildings as sending schools to sort of agree and map out how we would give credit to those particular programs. For example, culinary, one of the areas that culinary meets is a fine arts credit, for example, okay? So that was determined by the work of the principals in collaboration with CATSI and those instructors. So really what I really like about this bill is really it's another sort of alternative pathway for kids and expanding on that pathway for kids. And basically we approach it where the principals really have the freedom of how we give kids those credits. As you know, there are often kids who are involved in CATSI that the traditional school doesn't always fit. And some kids might be deficient credits for one reason or another. So I have the ability to be able to slide those in if needed. I can also use those credits as elective credits if kids need them. For example, CATSI takes up about half of a student's daily schedule. So when they commit to CATSI their junior year, they're really locked into social studies, English, math, and science, you know, in the mornings before they leave for the PM CATSI sessions. So then I can really assign those credits needed, if needed, as elective credits, where there might be holes in a student's cumulative transcript. And we can also use those credits for kids, like I said, that may need them for a science or a math or a fine arts credit. If a student failed a credit or failed a half year, we can plug those in. So it gives us a lot of flexibility, and it also gives kids a lot of incentives. Additionally, with that, and the reason why we took that approach is CATSI, a lot of their programs are now concurrent enrollment, which means that they get college credit. So they're already getting that high school credit on their transcripts from the university that particular program is aligned with. So that again is another sort of factor in what credit might be given, how and when for a particular student. But really excited about the work. Just sort of laying it out now. Still a couple of holes that we have to fill with some programs that still had some work to do, but hoping that at our first, few CATSI meetings of the year, that the principals and Mr. Gannon can talk about how we're going to sort of continue to work through this and implement it. But very exciting work.
Thank you so much. Does the board have any questions? Ivy?
Do the majority of the students have enough time to be able to get in all their credits that they need, or do we need to build in more time so that they can attend CATSE, because I think this is a really amazing opportunity for them.
The honest answer is generally the answer is yes. And if they don't, then we have an amazing team that finds a way, whether it be through college classes, summer classes that are taken through dual or concurrent enrollment. We do have kids that are behind the 8 ball and behind the 8 ball in credits, and CATSE is a huge motivator to keep those kids in school. So we find a way, and this is going to make it easier for me to really incentivize them and also get them the credits that they need. If they're already doing the art class, they don't necessarily have to take ceramics, for example. Nothing wrong with ceramics, but if I'm an auto body, I'm probably going to be as in tune with ceramics, so then I can really have the ability to give that kiddo that might be behind that credit that they might need.
Awesome. Thank you.
Perfect. Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much for your presentation. All right. Any other questions from the board or comments regarding the other administrative reports in our packets? Okay. Okay, we'll move on to item 4.6, our district data workshop by Megan White.
So this is a workshop that has been done annually, and we did it last year. And now the team is here to present you the newest data around our data.
Good evening. So again, I'm Megan White, the Director of Teaching and Learning here at Winthrop Public Schools. Tonight, we're going to focus our presentation on 3 areas. So we'll talk about some demographic data. We've expanded a couple things that we're going to speak with you about this evening. We're going to touch on student achievement, and we are also going to look at student outcome data. Enrollment this year so far is up. It's the highest that it's been since the October enrollment prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. We've increased by 41 students, which is about 5% of our student population since last fall. There were 3 big changes to note from last year to this year. Pre-K last year was 37 students. This group of students is now currently in kindergarten and is a class of 62. We traditionally have taken on additional kindergartners that didn't attend our pre-K, but this is a bit higher than we normally expect. At Winthrop Grade School, K-5 is up 30 students. This is nearly a 10% increase in that school's population since last fall. Again, this is partially due to a larger than predicted kindergarten class, but also 21 additional students from 1st to 5th grade enrolled across all of those grades. Our middle school population, you can see, is down, and that's mostly due to a large class of 8th graders moving on to the high school and a smaller class moving up from 5th grade to 6th. We also see a corresponding increase in the high school as they take on this larger 9th grade class. Our fall data shows an exciting trend. There are more families joining our local community and choosing to enroll in Winthrop Public Schools. Sue Fawcett is our special education director. She's going to join me up here now, and she's going to share some additional details about special education enrollment.
Thank you, Megan. So we thought it would be beneficial for you folks to see the perspective school to school, our state to district comparison, as well as where we are locally. So the graph that you're looking at on the left is our special ed count school to school. So you can see the largest number of special ed students are at our grade school, represented by the blue, the K-5. One of the things that Megan talked about is pre-K. We currently do not serve or count, so to speak, in our special ed count, our pre-K students, but that will be changing coming in the near future. But as the largest school in the district, it does have over 50% of the special ed population. Again, corresponding with that smaller number of kiddos at our middle school is also a smaller population of students there as well for special ed. And we see that the trend at the high school has grown a little bit because of those classes that are a little bit larger. The graph that's on the top right is our district to state comparison, which I am super excited to share because this is a trend that we have been talking about in many of my special ed director meetings. The state average for special education noted in red, you can see that trend line continuing to go up, and it is closing in at the 20 to 21st percent identified statewide in special education. Winthrop has remained right around the 10 to 13% identification rate. And our overall district count, our numbers are going down. However, that does not explain some of the need for more services, because the challenge of the student population that we're receiving is a little bit more challenging. Most of my district colleagues around are seeing the same trend. Their numbers may be going down, but their needs are definitely going up. And so that we can't represent in data, so to speak, but we're really excited about the trends that we're seeing in comparison to the state averages. Megan?
Thanks, Sue. Another population that we're keeping our eyes on right now is our multilingual learners. Multilingual learners are students with a primary or home language other than English who are in the process of acquiring English. Students who are multilingual learners may receive English language development services from teachers who specialize in English for speakers of other languages. It's also known as ESOL, as well as additional support through their instructional day provided by their teachers. Starting in the 24-25 school year, Winthrop Public Schools employs a teacher who focuses 20% of their time working with our multilingual students and assists in developing their language acquisition plans. Similar to special education, these students often have specific and varied needs. So although our population is only 1.7%, or 14 students out of the 841, in order to support these students adequately, we have needed to be creative and flexible with programming and student scheduling. Our average daily attendance, also referred to as ADA, is also the highest that has been in several years. Average daily attendance records the percent of students on average who are in attendance at school on a daily basis. Attendance really matters. We can only elevate our learners if they show up, and we know that students thrive academically, socially, and emotionally when they attend school regularly. Although average daily attendance data is beneficial to track, when looking more closely at attendance data, ADA often masks the population of students who are regularly absent from school. Here we can look more closely at the percent of students who are chronically absent in yellow and those who are considered truant in red. A chronically absent student means it's a student who's enrolled in school and whose total number of absences is equal to or greater than 10% of the days that they've been enrolled. For example, if a student was enrolled for 100 days, being absent for 10 or more of those days would make them chronically absent. This includes both excused and unexcused absences. And this data point is very important to the DOE. They use it when identifying schools to be placed on improvement plans. Truancy is the next level up from chronically absent. The determination of truancy depends on the student's age and/or grade level, as well as consecutive and cumulative absences. You can see that our total number of chronically absent and truant students has been declining and is at its lowest that it's been in years. Efforts continue to be made to improve this, with a district goal of reducing rates to 15% at the grade school and middle school, and chronic absenteeism reduced to 20% at the high school. It may appear to you folks that truancy has increased, and it may have. However, we do believe as a team that it wasn't correctly being tracked and reported in Power School. This has been remedied over the last 2 years as we've worked towards correct and consistent reporting across all of our buildings. Next, we'll take a look at student achievement data by looking at our NWEA testing scores. These measures involve both a RIT score, which is achievement and percentile levels, as well as if students have met growth goals. This data includes all students, kindergarten through 11th grade, that are either taking the MAP growth tests, which is our local assessment, or the NWEA Maine through year assessment, which is required by the state of Maine. In math, over the past few years, we've seen percentile scores somewhat stabilize, and in the spring of 24-25, we actually see an increase in the amount of students above the 40th percentile. Each of these colored sections in this graph represent a percentile band, and the darker shade of the same color shows the percent of students in each band that also met their growth goal. Ideally, blue, green, and yellow bands, which represent the 40th through the 100th percentiles, would be really large, and the red and orange bands would at least be darker, meaning that those students were meeting their growth goals. This past spring, we can see a few things here. First, the darker parts of each band have gotten bigger. This means that more students in each of these achievement areas have met their growth goals and than those in the past years. With increases in meeting growth goals, we do see some increases in the amount of students that have now moved into the blue, the green, and the yellow sections. The blue section representing the 80th to the 100th percentile, the green is the 60th to the 80th, and the yellow being the 40th to the 60th percentile for achievement. In addition to district and school-wide data, we also track student class cohorts and grade level data. If these tables, and I know it looks like a lot initially, but if you read them both left to right, in this first graph, you can see that it's students above the 50th percentile, and the second graph is the percent of students that have met their growth goal. Again, if you read them left to right, you're looking at historical grade level data. So we're looking from year to year in that same grade level. If you read it diagonally, which is how it's color coded, we can track specific student groups as they move from grade to grade. At Winthrop Middle School, I've already been able to meet with their math department to look more closely at this data, as well as both individual student data and instructional band data, which gives us more information about the content. We saw huge improvements in this 6th grade class right here last spring, which is our current 7th, and are excited and hopeful that this trend will continue. If you look historically across 6th grade, we can see that they bumped up higher than they had in the last couple years. And then if you follow this cohort diagonally, again, we see for the achievement that it increased as well. If we look over at growth, again, we're trying to look at both of these measures. We see this 41% of those students met their growth goal. So they made expected growth compared to their prior 6th grade peers. That's the actual highest that we have in the last 5 years. And if we track them backwards for the amount of students meeting their growth goal, we see that although the achievement maybe still was a little bit lower over here, that this group, this cohort is making some really significant growth gains, and we're hoping to continue to see an achievement increase. A similar meeting to what we did at the middle school will be happening at the high school during our October early release, as well as a complete data dive at our grade school with teachers that same afternoon. Reading, however, we do not see the same improvement trend right now. As a district, our reading achievement scores are pretty stable, meaning that each of our colored bands for the last spring have stayed about the same as they did for the prior year. This isn't to be unexpected, especially for the grade school who adopted a new program last year for both reading and writing. Often with the adoption and implementation of new programs, we see a dip in achievement scores over the first couple years. Looking more closely, we noticed that last year's 1st grade group, again, I'm going to kind of highlight things so you can see some of the things that we noticed as a team. If we look at last year's 1st grade group, comparing horizontally across all of the 1st grades, we can see that this group was quite low, the lowest that we've seen in 1st grade over the last few years. And if we look diagonally, when they were in kindergarten, they were actually the lowest kindergarten as well that we had seen in quite a few years. Principal Violet has already been working with her team on this very creatively to think about grouping and regrouping, as well as pushing in some additional classroom supports and staff for this group. Instead of having a large chunk of these now 2nd grade students leave the classroom for intervention, our staff will be going into the classrooms where they can identify and fill learning gaps as they arise. Looking at this same group, okay, so we look at the growth piece as well. We see that last year, many students, 68% of them had met their growth goal, compared to the year before where only 33% did. So a huge percent of those kids we know can make strides, and we're really hoping that with this additional support, they will continue to grow and the achievement will follow. Additionally, administrators have determined next steps to help support and improve our scores in reading, and they will speak about that just in a few moments in this presentation. Another measure, of achievement is student success, is the graduation rate. For several years, Winthrop has been below the state average for our 4-year cohort, those who graduate on time within 4 years. The data for the 24-25 school year is not yet publicly available. However, based on our own tracking, we believe our graduation rate will be 84.9%, with 56 of the original 66 students graduating on time. Additionally, we're going to start looking more closely at our 5- and 6-year graduation data. This refers to the number of students who graduate within 5 or 6 years of their first enrollment of high school. This data tracks students who took longer than the traditional 4 years to meet the requirements. The data from the 24-25 school year is gathered not from the graduating class of 25. It's looking at the class of 2024, which graduated 34 out of 44 students, 77%. Okay, this is our 5-year cohort. And it combines them with the class of 2023, which at the time had graduated 50 of 59 students, or 84.7%. That would be our 6-year cohort. So out of these two groups, if additional students had graduated, we would be at a higher percentage. Okay. In the last 2 years, no students from either class, or 1 year from our 5-year, 2 from our 6-year cohort, did graduate in this previous spring, meaning that our data is just their combined percentage from the original 2 graduation rates. No state data has been released for this yet for our 5- or 6-year cohorts. Of the students that graduate, post-secondary enrollment is well above average, the state average, and it's been so for a long time. This percentage represents the students who, right after graduation, enroll in programs of secondary education in Maine and outside of the state. Again, we don't have the official numbers from the state, but based on our own in-house tracking, again, we believe that 46 of the 56 graduates continued on to post-secondary schooling, which would be the highest yet at 82% of our graduating class. Thank you all for your attention. I know it's a lot of information all at once. I've shared several of our goals and observations with you throughout this presentation, but at this point, I'd like to invite up our principals to share more about their building-specific goals.
Good evening, Teresa Violet, principal at the Winthrop Grade School. And we are looking at increasing student academic achievement, as she alluded to, in the area of literacy. We're also looking at increasing our attendance rate, and also parent involvement and parent engagement. So those are three areas. One thing that we've done right at the get-go is revise our morning bus arrival time to increase academic instructional time for students. Another thing that we've been doing, as Megan just mentioned as well, is really doing some diving into data and figuring out how can we best leverage the resources that we have in our building to provide the supports and meet students where they are at their point of need. So we're really looking at that, grouping students, regrouping students based on need. And lastly, our attendance, we know matters. So we've started in September looking at our grade levels and which grade level had the highest ADA, or average daily attendance. And we've done some celebrating around that. And we're looking at seeing which kids do we need to support more, really getting down to the student level, not just grade level or school-wide, but the student level, and figuring out what students need that support so we don't run into that chronic absenteeism issue. So.
Hello. At the middle school, we are very excited that we have finally hired an interventionist in the area of literacy. So we now actually have a sixth grade ELA teacher who will be teaching ELA as well as being our literacy interventionist. And if you look at some of the data that Megan shared with you, our ELA program we've kind of struggled the last several years. And I think that right now we have a very solid team and we're going in the right direction. Working with Common Lit interdisciplinary, we did that the other day as a PD session, and science, social studies, and English language arts teachers sat as content area teams and participated in a webinar. And they all came out with goals based on that. And it's really going to lift our instructional strategies and resources. So for example, right now, our social studies team took that and went, wow, we can take this, enhance our curriculum, what we're doing in social studies, but bring in those ELA standards and how to support what's happening in English language arts. We also across the board now require certain expectations in all content areas. If you're writing a sentence in math class, you're using capital letters, you're using conventions, you're doing a full complete sentence. That just doesn't happen in ELA. It happens across the school. Even when they meet with me after school to process some things. On the 10th, on our workshop day last Friday, grade level teams worked and looked at individualized student data. They were comparing how they did last spring with their NWA scores there, our current data, and classroom work now that we've been in school for 6 weeks, and who are those students that we need to target right now with our new interventionist, as well as tier 1 right in the classroom. What resources do we have available, and how do we integrate that? Our science teachers are integrating literacy right now with a book study for that. So we're really trying to dig down deep. What are the skills? Not just big and broad, but try to narrow in. Increased family communication. I really celebrate this. In the last 3 years, we've really increased that. And one of the things we're doing now is really that personal touch. Middle schoolers, if they're not here for a day, they miss a lot. So what can we do to support them and get them there? Walking in the door at 7:15 is really early for these kids. And so we do whatever we can to help and lift and call and working with guidance or nurses or our teachers, but making it a personal touch, not you need to be in school, but why? What can we do to support you? So we're celebrating those things.
Hello again. So at the high school, I won't belabor some of this stuff. So we do have that Common Lit interdisciplinary workshop coming up next week during our early release day that Megan has put together for us, and some brainstorming that goes along with that to focus on our district literacy goal and integrating more reading into the content. We certainly have hired an interventionist. He's currently working with students who are behind, he's referred to, or if they've gotten behind, or again, I've warned him that as students may need him come crunch time in February or March, that he may be busier with kids so that we can get them across the finish line. And he's doing home visits. He's done some home visits to try to see where kids and why they're not in school. We haven't taken our eye off the ball of attendance, nor with parent communication. The last one is the content area and grade level teacher meetings. I always believe you have to give something to get something, right? I had to talk to my staff at my staff meeting last week about why we're doing these. We're meeting twice a month during the day. So the give is that, kids lose some win time, which they don't necessarily like. But I believe too much win time is, if you have too much win time, whatever I need time, it becomes social time. Right, Abby? Can be. I don't like that. So when we carve out that time, I have to tell my staff that you know, why are we doing this? The reason we're doing it is because we want to improve teaching and learning. And it's hard work. We've never done this work before. We got to look at our data. We got to dig in. We got to figure out where our gaps are, and we've got to address them. We've got to have time when they're fresh in the day to be able to do that work with our colleagues, which we haven't done a lot of either. And it's hard work and it's different work and it's hard and we don't like it because it's different and we're being asked to do something. But teachers are being asked to drive these meetings. They're coming up with about 85% of the agendas. You know, Megan and I are kind of watching, but we're really not hovering, if you will. Okay. And I've told the staff that why we're doing this is because we want to improve teaching and learning with our kids. And when you put in the time and you put in the effort, it will pay off. It will pay off. It will pay off. It will pay off. So sometimes change is necessary, but when you recognize gaps, change is necessary and change is hard. Thanks.
Thank you all again. The whole team is here. We are happy to take any questions from the board at this time.
Wonderful, wonderful presentation, guys. That's a lot of innovate to elevate going on here. I love it. Questions from the board at this time?
No questions, but thank you you put it together in a way that is really easy to follow. Those charts for the math and reading following the classes.
Oh,
is
good.
Very cool and
Yeah.
really helpful to kind of see where they've gone over the years.
Perfect.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
your effort in that.
I definitely feel like we've seen that in the previous years, but I feel like I understood it best this year. And I think it's finally sinking in. So great job. Any other questions? All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, well, we are done with our section 4. So we'll move on to our old business, which I'll start with entertaining a motion to approve policy GCGA, substitute teachers and education technicians for second reading.
Seconded.
Any discussion from the board at all? Okay, all those in favor? Unanimous vote. Thank you, everyone. Okay, and for our new business item, this is on our attached sheet of paper here. That's. Oh, no one else has it. Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is an addendum to the agenda. It's item 6.1. I'll entertain a motion for consideration and approval to employ Kaylee Four as Winthrop Middle School ELA teacher and interventionist for the 2025-2026 school year, as recommended by the hiring committee.
Seconded.
And discussion?
Yes, I am happy. And I know that Principal Smell is thrilled to have me recommend Kaylee Four as the WMS ELA teacher interventionist for the year. She comes to us with 30 years of experience and with a ton of teaching strategies that's needed to help our struggling students to succeed. One of her references said, Kaylee is an inspiring educator, a dedicated professional, and a truly kind human being. The students in her class achieve exceptional growth. We are thrilled to welcome Kaylee to Winthrop Middle School with your support.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you all very much and welcome, Kaylee. Okay. At this time, we will open up our second public comment section. So if there are folks in the room or those online, just let us know.
No one on Zoom.
Okay. That's a wrap. We'll close our public comment section and we'll offer this time to school board members at this time to offer up any comments.
I just want to say and point out too, there's a lot of amazing students in our community that step up to the plate without any adult prompting or any of that stuff and show what kindness and caring and listening. One of the most amazing human connections that we have is compassion and human connection. And to see some of our students online even show that care and concern to let people feel heard understand the issues in our community and try to make a difference is big kudos in my book. That's what this community and many others need as adults. I reflect on those things, the ways that I can be inspired, and we have a lot of amazing students in our communities.
Thank you, Ivy. Anyone else? Okay. Perfect. At this time, we'll invite those who are invited to our executive session to stay behind and let everyone else leave for the evening. Oh, and I will make a motion, yes.
There's a section that we can, things for a future agenda.
I
I missed that.
think it has in previous years been on the board public comment, the board comments.
Okay, can I share? There's a couple of things that I'd like to see if we can add onto the agenda. See in the online posts in a lot of our community with bullying. I think that's an area that sounds like that we can find ways to improve that, so people feel heard, lift that up and make that kind of abolish, put away hopefully, but not. I think that's a really important thing. Seems like it impacts a lot of our community, makes people, it impacts their educations, adults, causes stress, there's a lot of stuff. So I'd like to see if we can find ways to fix that and make things better for that. Also, ADHD and autism, there's ways that we can bring in more understanding and training. I think a lot of people don't understand what sensory and information overload is, how it reflects in different people. I think people, when they don't understand those, can make assumptions or accusations or not understanding how to bring that person back into focus. And when you misunderstand and make comments, it can escalate instead of help kind of gain that regulation. And I think we need to build some more compassion and training around those things so that people aren't being or feel like they're being targeted because they have those disabilities. And it kind of makes it feel like they're more supportive and part of our community.
Thank you, Ivy. Anyone else? Okay, perfect. So at this time, we're gonna have our executive session. We will make a motion. So I'll entertain a motion to enter into executive session regarding personnel matters pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056A.
So moved.
Seconded.
Oh, of course, yeah, of course. Vote to get in. Yep. All right, and all those in favor of entering into executive session? Perfect.